who's the other?
Well, the other seems to be a couple of parties, probably independents.
It's not
What is surprising?
not AAP.
Not AAP,
Not
definitely.
AAP. And what
But,
is, if
but
you have noticed,
interesting is DMK, because do you think it's the corruption, anti-corruption mood that has hit the DMK, or is it the family feud?
No.
Combination.
It's always either this or that. If you, as you said, the bipolar politics is there. Now, this number of 31 is almost very reasonable. I mean, believable, because in case this is a number Mayawati might get, and also Trinamool Congress. This is a solid 30 from here, there, and 90 seats are with them. They decide the future of the politics. And then DMK very shrewdly, immediately, as he said, criticized and then joined BJP, left UPA, and then immediately came, because he wanted to do it before Jayalalitha could do it openly. So that is the level of competition which is there in Tamil Nadu. And then those things, I am reminded of the arresting of Shankaracharya also.
Yes.
And Kanchipuram, DMK had announced a bandh demanding the arrest of this one on Monday. Jayalalitha arrested him on Sunday just to have a preempt the thing that it was not done after the bandh. So it's the same case, and then she got all the blame from the Brahmin section, this section, every section. They assumed that, they forgot about Karunanidhi's agitation. They assumed that it was Jayalalitha as a Brahmin did that.
And I think you're seeing this in Tamil Nadu. You're going to be seeing this play out in West Bengal. You will see this play out in quite a few other states where we've always treated the Muslims in India as a vote bank, and that's what we love to call them. But I think for the first time this election, the Muslim votes are actually making a huge difference. Because the moment there is a sense that someone is likely to ally with Narendra Modi and not BJP but Narendra Modi, they tend to consolidate onto the other side. So if that means that they need to shift sides, so be it.
So they're becoming the deciding factor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the numbers of West Bengal right now are like, but I won't be surprised if the left is doing well there.
Yes.
and one more thing that you can notice is, unlike the attacks, verbal attacks of Narendra Modi and Mamta, when it comes to Jayalalitha, for the last couple of weeks, they have been silent about each other. That means the alliance, I mean, their doors are always open. It depends on what finally BJP gets.
Yes, what
But
finally...
both being strong personalities, a lot more than doors need to be opened.
Yes, definitely. Mr. Prithvi, your first thoughts? AIDMK sweeping Tamil Nadu and DMK completely decimated if you go by all these three opinion exit polls.
There are two things to say. One is that Congress has been unlucky in the friends that it has had, and unlucky in the enemies that it had chosen. And Jayalalitha being the case here, and DMK, I mean, a lot of corruption scandals have been caused by DMK ministers at the center, both in UPA 1 and UPA 2. So DMK has not been a good ally in that sense to Congress, and it's continuing to haunt Congress's performance. And in any case, Congress was not expecting to do well at all. And there's one other thing which needs to be said about Jayalalitha in this context, which is that Jayalalitha has always been talked about as a potential prime minister, especially in the context of this election, as someone potentially as an ally to BJP. Both those scenarios are interesting. They've always been interesting. But the thing is this, in relation to Modi, in relation to all the discussion about Gujarat model of development, Tamil Nadu has been one of the other, really progressive states which could compete with Gujarat on all indicators. And if Narendra Modi has not been criticizing Jayalalitha, one of the reasons could be that she's a heavyweight in terms of performance, in terms of governance as well. So it's not as easy to take on a Jayalalitha, not just because she's a potential ally, but she's not, in terms of her own accomplishments or in terms of Tamil Nadu's own achievements, she's not like Mamta Banerjee, who does not have a track record yet. She's not, Tamil Nadu is not like West Bengal, which has had its own issues with regard to industrial policy, with regard to development, and so on and so forth. So in that context, Jayalalitha's performance is not surprising, but all this discussion is also interesting for these reasons.
I mean, Jayalalitha remains unpredictable, as we have seen the manner in which she behaved when she was with Vajpayee. She virtually tortured him. So Modi needs to be very, very careful what he is getting into in the event he decides.
Yes, if Jayalalitha is one of the
Right here in our News9 studios, we bring you all the details as far as exit polls are concerned. Now that the last phase of polling has come to an end, my colleague Akshata takes us through the figures from West Bengal.
Right, Nishita, 42 seats there. This is what it stands like, and I think C-Voter, Nielsen as well as ORG Mark have pretty much agreed that TMC will perform rather well, but it's the left that seems to be creating quite some doubts as to how they will perform. If you look at actually C-Voter there, they're stating a meager 9, but take a look at what ORG Mark has to say. They've given left almost 15 seats, and of course the Nielsen in between with 12 there. So left to be something that everyone will closely watch to see how exactly they perform. Whether they'll stick to these numbers or actually exceed them is something that they will look into. Also, what we have to note is between the BJP and the Congress seems to have made a better impact in West Bengal rather than the BJP, despite the fact that the top brass of the BJP has made their way to West Bengal time and again. Of course, we've seen that all-out war between Narendra Modi and Mamata Banerjee as well. But it looks like Congress is performing better going by these opinion poll exit polls, of course. And if you look at all three as well, Congress has posted 4 according to C-Voter, 5 and 5 of course according to Nielsen as well as ORG Mark. And besides that, in BJP, of course, it's 2 for ORG Mark as well as C-Voter. Nishita.
Thank you, Akshata, for all those figures. Well, there we have it. TMC seems to be in a comfortable position, but as Akshata went on to state, left, its numbers seems to be fluctuating quite a bit. Ms. Ashwati?
See, I think one of the things that's happened in West Bengal, again, like in Tamil Nadu, the minority votes have actually shifted to the left from the TMC, simply because there is always the possibility of Mamata tying up with Modi. She might be screaming from the rooftops right now saying that we will not tie up, but Modi has made it plain and simple in several ways and on multiple visits to West Bengal, saying that, we are open to talks and we'd love to have her as a part of our team, and I'm willing to do so much for West Bengal. So alongside, one of the things that Mamata did which didn't quite work for her is she set up a system of stipends for the Maulvis, and those stipends were never paid. So there was already an anger against her administration within the community, and added to that, when there was this possibility of her being a slippery customer and joining hands with Modi, I think the Muslims shifted towards the left. Therefore, the left has to thank Narendra Modi if it gets its 15 seats there, because it's a party which is left with very little organizational structure, both at the leadership level as well as at the ground level. Apparently, this is what I was told. I don't even know whether this is really true, but out of the 42 seats, they couldn't find polling agents for almost 20. So, that's how weak the organizational structure is. So, for a party of that kind to maintain its 15 seats, I think is a remarkable achievement.
Right. Professor Datta, if you can give us your thoughts as far as West Bengal is concerned and the performance of the left more importantly.
Well, it's been, quite clear for a long time that Mamata Banerjee wants to be one of the, 30, what we can call as the 30-member club, right, along with Mayawati and Jayalalitha. I think the two stories which are coming out of West Bengal, one, there was this expectation that Mamata Banerjee was going to self-combust within months after coming to power. Even though there have been missteps, it's surprising that she has managed to hold on to West Bengal, keep her political support intact. And it's also surprising how she has managed to build her party base quite substantially, even after coming to power. So that's one story which is quite fascinating, and that is paying political dividends. The other big story is, following up on what Shashwati was saying, it's not quite clear how the left is going to rediscover itself in West Bengal or in Indian politics for that matter. It seems to be lacking in imagination. It seems to not have a credible agenda that it could project. Its support to UPA won and floundering a little bit after that seems to have left it with no energy, no imagination. So where does the left go from here? Even if it is trying to be politically relevant in only a few states, West Bengal and Kerala especially, that's the other thing to, other story to look at. But the numbers seem to be, fairly consistent with what we have been reading in reports for a while now.
Right, that's right.
BJP might just do a little better than the 2 seats that ORG Marg is talking about.
Right. We'll come back to West Bengal, but we'll quickly take a big news that is just coming in. Times Now ORG Marg has given 249 seats to NDA, whereas it has given 148 to UPA. This comes in quite a bit of a difference with what Sea Voter had to say. Sea Voter had said that it will be 289 seats, in fact, for the NDA and just about 100 seats for the UPA. And ORG Marg has also said that it will be 146 seats for the others. So there has been quite a change if we do go by this exit polls, quite a fluctuation there.
So now look at the opinion poll numbers. If I remember correctly, India TV I think had given the NDA 315 plus seats, right? And there were, I think even Aaj Tak had given...
Cicero had said almost the same thing, 261 to 283 for NDA.
So I mean, there were channel after channel who had conducted opinion polls were giving the BJP close to 300 seats. So now you're saying if it's ending at 240, 250 level, a difference of 40 seats. So what did I tell you? The error margin, that's what's actually going to be the game changer this time. So if today we are looking at 283 seats or 289 seats or whatever, just give it an error margin of 10%, 30 seats are knocked off. So where do you go? So, now there is sense in talking about Chandrababu Naidu, in talking about Jayalalitha, in talking about
all
Jagan
the
Reddy.
Regional outfits also.
So what Prithvi calls the club of 30 might have to be a much larger summit of maybe 33 players.
So we have Professor Datta also wanting to add a point. Yes, Professor Datta.
Yeah, the difference between state projections and national projections is that at the national level, projections are likely to be a little bit closer to reality because the margin of errors, even if it's a little bit, it's easier to be closer to what the eventual numbers might end up being. But at the state level, it's not so easy to get to the eventual numbers. So that's one important thing to keep in mind. And if Times Now is projecting around 250 to NDA, that seems more like a plausible scenario. That seems something which is consistent with other evidence that we have been seeing be it in narrative reporting, in all kinds of other political reporting that we have been seeing on television and on in newspapers. So this difference between the margin of errors that might be there at the state level and at the national level is important to keep in mind.
Also, now keeping in mind this projection and what Mamata Banerjee is likely to get, do you think she will somewhere be required? If you take that 30% error margin?
Let's see the
her and more. If her number is Sea Voter's number, she will want to call the shots. If her number is the ABP Nielsen number, she matters. If it's the Times Now number, she's just about there.
She'll just bargain for something.
Yeah.
She would rather be happy getting a package which Modi has promised her. And to that extent, I think she'll go to any length despite her tantrums.
So if they end up with around 240, I think all the 3 ladies, that's Maya, Jaya and Mamata, all the 3 ladies will be.
So you can safely assume BJP is in trouble if it goes with all 3 or even one of them.
Vajpayee once had this trouble, and then Modi.
At least she has not told anything so far.
No, let's look at Odisha. Let's see where BJD is.
Yes, they're one more.
They are a former NDA partner, so